Hello and welcome to the JCN Clinic Podcast Show. I'm Jessica.
I'm Carissa.
And I'm so damn excited to chat to Carissa today about this topic because she's going to be doing lots of the talking and I'm going to be doing lots of the question answering.
I feel like you were just stoked because you're like, yes, one that I can sit back. Gotta love one of those.
That's it. I was saying to my client last night, one of my last client, about recording the podcast today, and I said, yep, true Carissa and I style. We have not organised the topic. So after that actual session with her, Rissy and I had a little chat and she recommended, which to be fair, you have actually thrown a few times on the table and we haven't done it. So we're going to talk about HRT, which is super topical at the moment. Like there is so much, but because perimenopause and menopause is just blowing up as all the millennials and millennials / what am I? I'm Gen Z. No, not Gen. Gen X. Am I Gen X? Yeah.
I don't know. I always get confused.
Yeah, like maybe some late millennials and definitely Gen X are getting into the peri and menopause area, and we're all like on our phones and on socials. Of course, it's all like blowing up. So there's a lot also that is out there with respect to HRT. And Carissa is our hormone, what are we going to call you?
Extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. I like it. That's way better than guru. Guru's like really airy-fairy.
I just came up
extraordinaire.
with that then. Just came up with that then.
Yeah, Rissy loves hormones. She lives and breathes it. She always has. There's so much that she has to share in this area and super passionate about it. And also like her clients gravitate towards her for this reason. So we were having a joke about the fact we put up some question box in this area and you guys just gave me
crickets.
Nothing, just absolute crickets. And I said, usually my questions are about why didn't this bread rise properly? Whereas Rissy gets hit up a lot about this. So
heaps, actually. Heaps. Which is why I want to talk about it because there's just so much that I think we can chat about, but I'm seeing I've got clients literally texting me or emailing me, asking me questions, whether it be on emails or, Instagram and stuff like that. And I thought we've just got to do a podcast for where it's at currently. And I know this space will change because it's just hit the ground running. And if you're living under a rock, then you haven't heard about it. But if you're on the podcast scene, on the Instagram scene, social media, whatever scene you're on, you would have heard that HRT is green lighted and has given the big go ahead, and it is everywhere at the moment. So so it has been spoken about. So disclaimer first, I am not an endocrinologist and I am not a doctor, and we know that. So but I am going to speak a lot to the space of HRT, and where like everything we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about based on the fact that I just, like Jess said, I love hormones, but I understand the hormone like cascade, however you want to say it. Like I explain it to my clients, I close my eyes and I see hormones as a blueprint. So when something like HRT becomes trendy and becomes big, like I innately understand it. So why I'm not an endocrinologist and a GP, and someone might say, well, you really shouldn't be talking about this. I can talk about it because I understand hormones so well, it's insane. But I also understand the female body through its various transitions of life stages so well, it's insane. And that's why I want to talk about HRT, because I think it's really important that women understand it and understand whether or not it is applicable to them, whether or not it is right for them, and whether or not it should be being prescribed and how it should be being prescribed depending on where you're at in your hormonal transition journey, because that's where I'm seeing things not necessarily always playing out correctly. And I think it's great if you have the power as a female wanting to undergo HRT or considering it or having it prescribed to you, that you understand where you're at and what should be happening and what is an appropriate response versus what is not. And that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. No, fantastic.
Just segue in. Just take over.
Well, we're going to move through some really important topics and questions with respect to that introduction. And then at the end, we've got some of the kind of classic questions that you get hit with.
Yep.
So let's dive in. So I think we should talk first and foremost about HRT as far as what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
Use that as an acronym even. Like there may be some listeners are like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So firstly, what is it? And yeah, why are we seeing so much about it? Maybe I just alluded to that in the intro, but let us know a bit more about what it actually is first.
HRT literally stands for hormone replacement therapy, which most of us probably know by now, but if you don't, that is what it stands for. So what has happened over the last sort of, 12 to 24 months is that HRT has been given a massive green light in terms of prescribing. Now, HRT, when we talk about the umbrella of HRT, where we also can talk about things like the oral contraceptive pill, progesterone only pills, and all of that, but they aren't the HRT that we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about the HRT that is used primarily in the treatment of perimenopause and menopause, which is a body identical form of progesterone. So it is compounded or not, but generally compounded, but it is not a synthetic form of the hormone. It is a compounded in a lab so that its chemical structure matches the one that our body naturally makes. So what happened was, and this has obviously been talked about a lot, is that HRT was getting used a lot. I know I can't even remember the time frames. This will be summer if you want to go look it up. But all of a sudden there was this big thing about it being associated with breast cancer and female cancers, and so it kind of just really got shut down very quickly. And a lot of women for the last 20 to 30 years, I think, have become really terrified of using any form of hormone replacement therapy while they're going through the menopause transition. Now, what they have kind of come out and said, well, by they I mean the overarching medical bodies, is that the research that was done, and again, this is for someone else to unpack, but this is literally where it stands, that the research that was originally done that created all of the fear mongering around HRT has turned out to be incredibly flawed and done on an incredibly biased percentage of the population of women that were not necessarily healthy to begin with and probably pose some form of cancer risk based on their current state of health. So whether or not the HRT contributed to that, who knows? But anyway, so what has happened in the last couple of years is that they've kind of gone, well, if this research was flawed, blah, 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 now we feel like it is safe to be looking at these body identical forms of progesterone and estrogen in the management of perimenopause and menopause. So naturally, as what happens with anything, is as soon as something gets given the green light, and because perimenopause and menopause are so topical at the moment, this space has fucking exploded. And if you are in perimenopause or menopause, going through menopause or postmenopausal, there is probably a very high chance you have heard or been asked if you would like HRT therapy, or had a discussion with it with your GP or endocrinologist or gynecologist or something like that. So yeah, so that's sort of where we're at, and that's why it is everywhere all of a sudden. But yeah, do you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think that's really well explained. I was just thinking, you're sort of talking about those decades where there was such a fear of HRT. I actually can remember my own mum. I don't know about your mum, but I can remember her being bang in the middle of that and just having like when she was going through, not so much peri for her, but with menopause, but just, having an absolute fear and an absolute no way in any way would that even be an option for her, because in her head it equaled cancer. It was just no, absolutely no way. So I actually vividly remember that time, because I can remember her talking about it, probably with some of her friends as well. Doesn't feel like that it's so long ago, but it's just fascinating how obviously things change, and as you said, how things explode like this. And even just thinking about the economics and the finances behind this too, as far as like the money to be gained.
Correct.
Which I'm sure at some stage it will come up. But let's talk about the state, like with HRT, and helping our listeners understand how this can be used and / prescribed. So 3 stages of the hormonal changes that we're looking at and where that HRT may be utilized.
Yeah, perfect. So when I chat about this, when I do any of my perimenopause seminars or menopause seminars, and when I'm chatting to my clients about this, I break this hormonal transition up into 3 stages because it is easier to understand when we're talking about the prescription of supplements or HRT to understand where you're sitting. And I think breaking it up into 3 stages rather than just perimenopause and menopause is actually easier. So we have perimenopause, which is, we don't have to give it stage 1, but we have perimenopause, which is most women late 30s into their late 40s. So that sort of decade to 12 years there, I like to say to my clients, that is essentially perimenopause. So some GPs and endocrinologists will only say you're in perimenopause once you start going into that early menopause. But for the purpose of this conversation and just understanding your hormones, and so I can let you or help you understand the HRT cycle and where where things should be getting utilized. We're going to go perimenopause is your start of your changes. So that decade to 12 years, somewhere in your late 30s, early 40s, that will kick in, and that will that will play out for a decade. And for most women, and we'll talk about the caveats and where things are different, but for the general population of women going through perimenopause, there's not massive changes to your there's not massive changes going on in the sense that we're going to say that you're nearly in menopause. So we're not seeing these rises of follicle stimulating hormone. What we actually are just seeing is this, this transition into menopause where we're getting, declines in progesterone levels and all of that. But for a lot of women, you should still be getting a regular period cycle. I know that is not the case because some women will have hormonal concerns going into perimenopause, but we have stage 1, which is sort of perimenopause. Then we have what I like, and what a lot of people will call early menopause. And this is where you're gearing up for menopause or post-menopause. So the actual menopause transition usually happens somewhere between like late 40s and early 50s for women. And this is where we actually start seeing significant changes in the cycles itself. So hormones will start to, periods will start to really scatter out. You might get a period and then not get another one for 3 to 6 months. They might be quite heavy. What we can actually do, though, is when you're actually going through this early menopause into menopause transition, is we can test this from a pathology-based perspective. So we will see extreme rises in follicle stimulating hormone. And how I explain that to my clients is when you're in perimenopause, your body's not gearing you up to stop reproducing yet. It's just gearing you up for the changes that are about to happen. So yes, there's hormonal changes going on behind the scenes, but perimenopause itself is more symptomatic, whereas early menopause into menopause is more of an actual change. Your pituitary and all of that are saying, we've got fuck all little eggs left in our ovaries. We want to get them out so we can transition into the next stage of our life, which is menopause. So what happens is that your brain says, I'm going to give you shit tons of follicle stimulating hormone. I'm going to gear these ovaries to get these last little eggs out. And that is what happens. And that can go on for 2 to 3 to 4 years. So that can be quite an unpleasant stage for a lot of women because these big gear ups of the FSH and these, and these scattering of the cycles. So it's not like this beautiful 28, everything's nice and regular. It can become and will become quite erratic for some women. Okay, so early menopause and this menopause transition is usually where we start to see a lot of the problems happening if women are going to be quite symptomatic. So this is where your hot flashes, the sweats, all of the things, like the brain changes. This is a quite symptomatic period, okay? Perimenopause is symptomatic too, but this is just gearing you up for the rock and roll show.
Gearing you up for the shit show ahead. Just easing you in.
Easing you in. Okay, and then we have post-menopause. So post-menopause defined as when it's actually been 12 months without a period. So generally speaking, we've kind of got, so that's how I like to break it up, because that is really important to understand where you are at when it comes to HRT, because this is where I'm seeing things not go right for some women. Like HRT has been given this huge green light for prescribing. but understanding where you're at really matters, because
true.
what sort of hormones you're going to put into your system really need to be understood and prescribed appropriately. Otherwise, this roller coaster is going to become a fucking crazy ride. So, and this is what I wanted to talk about today, because this is where I think, you know, if you understand where you're at, you can actually have a really good conversation, choose your prescribing practitioner appropriately, and then if you choose to do HRT or you need to do HRT, have it prescribed in a way that's not actually going to make things worse for you. So
yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
For people, I love the way you describe that. But yeah, for listeners to understand for themselves, as we've always said in lots of different areas with health, like it's that empowering knowledge, so that one, they can choose the best support through practitioners, but also to potentially raise questions, maybe as they're listening and learning, going, hang on, like this isn't maybe aligning like with what I'm doing, like you know, why am I taking X when I'm in this particular time of my cycle, let alone the fact that we're also individual. So next on the list, to start to get into the HRT a little specifically, luckily, listeners, I know Rissy so well because she's given me lots of acronyms. I'm pretty good at reading her brain. So bioidentical progesterone.
So
tell us about it.
Cool.
What does it do? When should it be prescribed? Let us know a bit more about this.
So we have in the HRT space at the moment, we have two main hormones that have been, or two main body identical hormones that have been prescribed. We have body identical progesterone, which is, I think its stage name is, I think it's Prometrium. I should have looked that up. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then you have your body identical estrogen. So these are, so progesterone, like just think about, because these hormones are body identical, they are literally, their role is to go in and do what your hormones do naturally. So if we think about what progesterone's role is in the body, in our menstruating years, obviously it can help us hold a pregnancy. That's great. We don't want to be doing that in our, you know, in our 50s, right? Well, some people might be, good on you, whatever. But for the majority of women, they're more wanting their progesterone to stay nice and strong for them, because progesterone is progesterone is what's released when we ovulate, but it's got these beautiful biological roles in the sense that it is nice and calming for you. It will hold out your menstrual cycle, so you are getting a 28-day cycle, but the release of that progesterone also helps regulate estrogen as well. So what happens when we're in our perimenopause, that decade leading into the roller coaster of menopause, is that progesterone levels naturally start to decline. Okay. So, and this is why perimenopause, when we're talking about symptoms for a lot of women, starts to become quite symptomatic. Like you start to become a lot more moody. The PMS symptoms become a lot worse. You become a lot more like emotional. Periods will feel a lot worse, can be a lot heavier, can be a lot clottier. So progesterone has always, up until perimenopause, played this, among its million other functions, but played this beautiful regulatory synergistic, role with estrogen. So when we're talking about progesterone, body identical progesterone being prescribed, if you're going to prescribe it or take it, that's what you can expect it to help with. Okay. And then we have our body identical estrogen or estrogen, which obviously estrogen, as we know, plays a completely different role to progesterone, but is in the right amounts, another beautiful hormone. So estrogen is not something to be feared, but estrogen, again, it is very protective. It is anti-inflammatory. It looks after our bone health and our mineral composition there. It, in just a normal menstrual cycle, will build up a uterine lining and shed it. So estrogen plays its role, which obviously I think we've done a million podcasts about what estrogen and progesterone do. But just understanding that if you're going to take these in forms of HRT, the responsibility of taking them is to go in and help your hormones do what they were doing that they are now not doing as effectively. Okay, that's pretty much what they do. Your body recognizes as a chemical structure that is exactly the same as what your body's naturally producing. Therefore, its regulatory role should go on to do the same thing. So what we're sort of seeing is, and I think this is what I wanted to chat about, is that when we understand what is going on with the 3 stages of our hormone transition, it's really important to understand what you should be getting prescribed. Now, what we're sort of seeing is I know. Do you want to ask me questions first before I go off on this next little tangent?
No, I think I think it makes sense just to talk from here because you've given a really good explanation of the two.
Yeah.
I know it might mean we're sort of skipping over testosterone, DHEA, but like can potentially come back to that. But essentially from here, I think it makes sense for us to talk about like how the complexities from here, like how are we essentially, now we know this, like how are we integrating it, but also how we can see problems and issues if we're not respecting these different phases that you've spoken about.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. I know because you're listening, I'm just like, as everyone knows, these are not scripted. Jess and I just word vomit. Like when we're passionate about something, we word vomit. So like Jess is listening, so I just need her to rein me in and keep me on track. So you guys get the best out of this conversation. Okay, so with respect to understanding what body identicals have the potential and the capacity to do, we need to understand when they should be prescribed. So what I think, but also what just makes sense is that when you're in perimenopause and you still have a lot of natural cycling estrogen, it makes sense that estrogen should not really be prescribed. What makes sense in perimenopause, that decade before everything starts to go totally cray-cray, is that if your body needs progesterone support, body identical progesterone can be prescribed. That makes the most logical sense. It makes the most biochemical sense. Obviously, I know there are going to be caveats to that because, and we'll talk about the reasons why, but some women might need estrogen. Some women might need estrogen prescribed in this space. But for the majority of cycling women, if you test them and you test them properly at the appropriate stages of their cycle, whether that is with a Dutch test, whether that is through serum, most women will not need estrogen in perimenopause. They will potentially need progesterone. And progesterone in perimenopause, if you are symptomatic in the sense of PMS going crazy, PMDD, you've got this luteal phase horridness going on, you're very symptomatic, you're getting a shorter cycle, you're all of a sudden, you were a 32 to a 28-day cycle girl, and now you're getting a 26-day cycle, or you're getting a 23-day cycle. Progesterone can be fucking beautiful for you. So it can go in and just give you that 5 to 10 years before early menopause, depending on when it needs to be prescribed. And it will be prescribed from the time you ovulate. So we want to mimic the body's natural cycle. The body doesn't naturally produce progesterone until we ovulate. And then that progesterone drops off once we start bleeding. So progesterone, if it's going to be prescribed, will be prescribed by most practitioners from about if you're getting a normal menstrual cycle, from about the time you ovulate for 14 days, 12 to 14 days. So we just want to go in and mimic the body's natural cycle. Okay. So in the perimenopause space, that can be absolutely beautiful. And for women that are in their mid-40s is typically where I would see it commonly coming in and playing a role. It can really help. Like sleep is a huge one. And progesterone, oh my God, I've seen progesterone just do such beautiful things in the perimenopause space for sleep and mood. If you are sleeping better, so many other things are better. But for a lot of women, they're already starting to feel these sleep changes, insomnia, lots of brain stuff going on. And if we can just get in and regulate with progesterone and support, and look, from a natural health perspective as well, support the body's natural progesterone. Like we do all of that, but we're talking about HRT today. So, so this is where progesterone can really, really shine. Where I see things going astray for people is that because HRT has been given the green light, is that there's a lot of people getting prescribed estrogen and progesterone in this perimenopause space. And estrogen, when it is prescribed for any of us that are already producing a lot or enough of it, and let's be honest, we do produce a lot more of it in our perimenopause years. It really fluctuates, and it can fluctuate, up to 2 or 3 times more than what it would in our, 20s and 30s. So you're just adding more estrogen into an already estrogen fluctuating situation, and that causes a fucking shit show for a lot of women. So if you're in perimenopause and you've been prescribed estrogen and you feel worse on it, it's probably because you don't need it. Okay. And if you've been prescribed estrogen and you're not sure about taking it, or you've been prescribed estrogen and no one's done any serum testing to have a look at your estrogen, make sure they are doing that, because it is so important. Progesterone has a absolutely beneficial and potential place in perimenopause. For a lot of women, estrogen does not, until estrogen starts to change in those early menopause and menopause years where we're actually getting the drops in estrogen. Okay. So you got to think estrogen's role is to fluctuate and do its stuff in all of our, reproductive years. But as we get into menopause, this is where estrogen really drops off. And then all these other symptoms can come in, like the hot flushes, weight gain, oh my God, bone pain, brain changes. Like there's so much that can happen here. And this is where estrogen, and in the early menopause stages, don't get me wrong, it will fluctuate a lot still. It's still going to fluctuate, but you'll have stages where it just drops off a bit. And what the body identical estrogen can come in and do in this early menopause stage and going into menopause is it can help regulate what is going on there. But it can also, if your estrogen drops off really quickly, and let's just say you're 48 and all of a sudden you just stop getting a period, we still want estrogen in there for quite a number of years yet to look after your bones and all of that. So, that's where the body identical estrogen can come in and either regulate or top up a deficiency. And that's where it can be prescribed. So how it will normally be prescribed is estrogen will rarely be prescribed on its own. It will get prescribed with the body identical progesterone. But again, we want to mimic the body's natural cycle. So estrogen will usually just be prescribed ongoing through the form of a patch or a gel. And then the progesterone will come in over the top for a 2-week part of that. So you'll kind of think about it like start of a day one, like estrogen goes all the way through is what they're trying to do with the HRT. And then the progesterone will come in at day 14. You'll stop taking that at day 28. Some women will get a bleed, some women will not, depending on what's going on and where they're at. But what they try and do with the HRT is then sort of mimic and modulate the body's natural cycles through it so that the menopause, early menopause and into menopause phase is a lot kinder.
Yeah.
Have I explained that
no,
well?
I think you've explained that really, really well, really well. How often do you see clients come to you? And maybe it's also people who reach out to you through social, but I'm curious about how often you see women who are in peri who are being prescribed estrogen instead of progesterone. A lot. Same.
And this is what I want to talk about because this, I think, and this is just me, all about me, no, but I think the people prescribing HRT at the moment, I'm so thankful it's been given the green light, and I'm so thankful there is a hormonal therapy that is now considered safer to help women that are really symptomatic with their, menopause journey, because for some women it is fucking horrible. But I think there needs to be a regulation of who the fuck is prescribing it, because I think the mainstream GP, and this is nothing against GPs, but the go-to seems to be at the moment, if you are a 46-year-old woman and you walk into your doctor and you tell them you're tired, you've got brain fog, you've put on weight, you're a bit grumpy, they go, oh, you must be in perimenopause, here's some HRT. Yeah. That is not treatment. That is not, and you with minimal testing to no testing of the hormones, no lifestyle questions. What are you doing? The perimenopause space can be so well managed with lifestyle, lifestyle, diet and exercise. I've talked about this, and we've talked about this, but I've talked about this on social media, even just recently with exercise. Even just so many of your peri symptoms will be improved if you're exercising and sleeping well. So what is happening now is there's so many GPs that are, and I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying, like, we've got this space where everything's just gone gangbusters. So every woman who walks into an office with the common cluster of 9 symptoms, or there's actually like 100, but there's a very common 9 to 10 that are associated with perimenopause, are being prescribed HRT. And quite commonly, estrogen and progesterone.
Yeah. Or estrogen on its own. I'm seeing estrogen on its own. Yeah.
And that will just, I don't know what you see, but I've seen my clients that has happened to, or clients that I haven't spoken to for a year that's happened to. And then they message me and they're like, hey, I've just been prescribed this. I've been on it for 2 months. I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. Like I'm ready to divorce my husband. Like, I'm like, you need to get off your estrogen straight away. Get off that. And go. And I know I'm not allowed to say that, but this is the space, this is where I see HRT causing the issues for women. And this is what I wanted to really, talk about, is that I think we need to leave the prescribing of HRT to specialist areas. So either a GP that has gone on to do the training, or there's some sort of checkbox protocol for things they have to test before they prescribe this. or give it to the gynecologist and the endocrinologist. It needs to, I think it needs to have a specialist prescribing field, not just every Tom, Dick and Harry, you know.
And ideally with that comes testing. Because even you just explaining so beautiful the synchronicity of all the stages, the other complexity is that we're all individuals within that. So like with the testing, like if testing was compulsory and ideally it was compulsory at least say once a year, to it'd be wonderful if it was a bit more, but once a year just to see how the body is going for you as an individual and how your hormones are fluxing before like there's these just you know, oh, we'll just chuck this at you, oh, you must be in this, just monitoring how this is used just makes sense to avoid the amount of like women that end up with such adverse effects.
And I also want to add into that the testing needs to be done on specific days of your cycle. If you test estrogen on day 3 of your cycle, it's going to be low. It's meant to be low. That doesn't mean you need estrogen. It just means you're in your fucking follicular phase. It hasn't started to rise again yet. So an understanding of when women are told to do their testing needs to happen as well. If you're testing around ovulation or just before ovulation, your estrogen is going to be high. Day 21, your estrogen is going to be high. Like there needs to be an understanding by the people prescribing HRT as to when they're testing, but what the hormones actually do at the specific stages of their cycle. So when they're looking in serum as well, like they understand, like, because that's the other thing, and I know you'll see this as well, but so many women go, I tested my estrogen and it was low. I'm like, cool, when did you test it? Oh, I don't know, the doctor just told me to do a test. Cool, where were you at?
So rare.
So frustrating. Your estrogen's not low, you just had your period.
It is so rare that I see standard blood tests for hormones done where there has been any mention to the client, like to the female, about like when to go and get those bloods done. Like it's just 99% of the time it's written on the form and they just have no idea. They just go and get it done. And then as you say, you ask them, when was this done? And they're like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
My doctor just told me to do them. And
it's like fair enough, because no one told you.
It's not their fault. It's 100% not their fault. They don't know. You're not meant to know. This is the role and responsibility of a specialist. So, so I think I really would love to see this be given to the endocrinologists and gynecologists, personally, or a GP. If they're going to prescribe it, there has to be, like you said, some sort of, you know, understanding, testing and all of that. But as a generalized rule, I really don't think estrogen needs to be prescribed in perimenopause unless there's a reason for it. And the reasons for it would be ovarian insufficiency. So someone who actually goes into menopause early, whether it be because of an autoimmune thing, you know, low AMH, there's so many reasons primary ovarian insufficiency can happen. So this can happen to a woman in her late 30s, early 40s, in which case if she's not ovulating and she goes into early menopause, we need her on HRT. We need her on estrogen and progesterone, because she still needs 10 to 15 years of those cycling and circulating hormones to protect her bones, protect her body, protect her brain, all of these other things. So that is one reason. The other reason would be if we have someone who is not making enough estrogen due to body weight, and that can have its various reasons. That can be overtraining, that can be disordered eating space, whatever it might be. But we do need to look at that for women who haven't had a menstrual cycle or who are not making a lot of estrogen. If you are someone who has been in that space for most of your 30s and you're getting into your 40s now and you're hoping your period's going to come back and it's not, and there's too many other factors to consider, and we need to start looking at protecting you. And this is where HRT is going to be better than what would commonly be prescribed for a girl or a woman in that space, would be the oral contraceptive pill. Do you know what I mean? Like I think if you are in that space and for whatever reason you have hypothalamic amenorrhea or whatever's going on, you may need to start considering HRT. And then the other one would be a full hysterectomy. So not a partial hysterectomy. If you have your ovaries and you've had a hysterectomy, you will not be bleeding. You will not be bleeding. But if you've still got your ovaries,
this is a miracle.
Yeah. If you've still got your ovaries or even one ovary, you are still making hormones. Okay.
Mhm.
So again, if you are 45 and you've had a hysterectomy and you have your ovaries, you may just need progesterone. You may,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So I think, but if you've had a full hysterectomy and they've taken your ovaries, they would have had this discussion with you, of course, anyway, but you will probably be on HRT and estrogen and progesterone because obviously you
Mhm.
don't have your ovaries, you're not making the hormones. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you've really highlighted sort of as far as some of these additional points that we had, the positivities of HRT and like where it really stands out in helping women, and then also where we're seeing it cause issues with relation to, in the majority, not being prescribed appropriately. But is there anything else with regards to that space that you wanted to touch on, or shall we move on?
Yeah, like I think we'll probably cover this in one of the questions, but I also just want to say that these hormonal transitions, I probably should have just said this at the start, but these, just in case someone's tuned out by now, everyone's sick of my ranting. But these hormonal transitions are going to happen. They are biochemically natural. And that is the big thing. So just because HRT has been given the green light doesn't mean you need to be on it. And that's the other big thing. I think it's really been shoved down women's throats at the moment. And this is, I'm so thankful for it for so many women. I'm so thankful that, you know, menopause and perimenopause and HRT is all getting this huge, huge chunk of the stage. I'm so thankful for that. But not everyone needs to be on HRT. This is the other thing. And this is what I find as well, because I've got a lot of women who are just going through the normal transitions of menopause. They get a few hot flashes, a little bit of disturbed sleep, but they're like, in terms of symptoms, it's very normal what they are going through. Do they need to be on HRT? No.
And can it be managed, like you said, without HRT a lot of the time?
100%.
Yes, through lifestyle management, or even with what we do nutritionally and
Correct.
naturopathically, what Rochelle does. Like there are these multiple options on the table.
Exactly. And that's what I really want women to understand. Just because HRT is available doesn't mean you need it. Like this is the big thing. And like, you know, this is probably where the next question is like, because I get a lot of women who are just HRT curious messaging me and they're just like, you know, like, should I be on HRT? And then I'm like, cool, book a consult. We'll go through where you're at and we'll have a conversation about it. So they do. So if you are just going, what's the best way to say this? If you are like, firstly, perimenopause and menopause are not meant to be asymptomatic. This is what people need to understand. Like, I think, and I'm not saying that in a rude way, but we've kind of all of a sudden, all of the symptoms associated with them have blown up on social media, like perimenopause and menopause. And I know we just said that it can be such a wild ride at the start of this, but like that it's just going to be this horrible shit show of an event. And for some women, it is. But for a lot of women, it is not. And if you are in that category of women where, especially perimenopause, you manage that really well with lifestyle, exercises, good eating choice, and all the stuff that we work with women on, the chances are you may not, or you will not need any sort form of HRT intervention. And that's, you know, obviously that's the goal. Like HRT is beautiful, but it doesn't need to be prescribed for everyone, because these biological transitions and these biological changes that are happening and physiological changes that are going to happen to all of us, they do come with symptoms, and that is okay. These symptoms are okay. It's just when they're wrecking your life and, you know, quality of life is not obtainable, that's when HRT can come in and really help people. But for the majority of healthy people going through the transitions, like you don't need to go on HRT.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you said that. I feel like in some ways it's almost been thought about as being some sort of pathology, like the way some women will speak about it. It's just like, yeah, this is this naturally occurring thing that's going to happen.
Yep.
To all of us, but it's kind of weird how it's almost become something that do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like seeing as some sort of like disease or pathology process that we have to quash, like this shouldn't be happening.
Don't go through menopause, here's the HRT just to iron it all out for you. And and that's, I guess, the issue with the pharmaceutical industry and the money behind things is that we'll create a problem and we'll give you the solution to fix it.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about this with so many things in so many ways with my clients, but HRT is just another one of those. Again, so thankful for it when it's needed, and it can be a game changer for women who need it. But perimenopause and menopause are not a problem. They're a natural biological process. If you are looking after your perimenopause space, 98% of the time, the menopause transition is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I see that anecdotally. I don't know if you, I'm assuming you do as well, but like,
yeah.
like
even honestly, just like naturally myself, like I'm late 40s now, like just from all of the things you're talking about, just taking care of myself, eating well, exercising, like all of the foundational stuff that we speak ad nauseum about, but then layering on top of that for any sort of changes that I've experienced, which have realistically been minimal, has actually been managed really well through naturally you doing what we do. So with the support mechanisms of certain supplements or with the support mechanisms of certain herbals, particularly to be honest in that space with Rochelle with herbals has been really beneficial. And that's been fine, absolutely fine. And now I know that I am me. I'm an N=1, and I know genetics plays a part. I know what my mum was like. So I've kind of got all of that as caveats behind that. But it's not always the case that like we hit this and I feel like clients, that's a big thing now. They are like, you would get it way more than me, but a lot of my clients now are very aware of like, I'm in peri. They're coming to me and they're like, I'm in peri. Do I need this? Do I need that? Like, it's fascinating. Like the switch.
Exactly. And exactly everything you just said. But I get the same thing. Like clients coming, I'm in peri. Like, what do I need to take? I'm like, you're good. You move your body every day. You're maintaining a healthy body weight. You eat really well. You get good sleep. You manage your stress. You prioritize health. Your period cycle's still regular. We've done a Dutch test. We know your estrogen's behaving itself at the moment. Mate, you're good. Kick back.
Exactly. Kick back, enjoy the ride.
Kick back. Like, as things start to change, and that's what I mean. Like, if you are doing pretty damn well, don't stress as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's a definite difference for the women who aren't doing that. And I'm not shaming in any way by saying this, but if you are not looking after your body in the perimenopause space, you are drinking a lot of alcohol, you are eating a lot of refined sugar, you are not exercising, the menopause ride is going to be a lot wilder. And that is just hands down undisputable. Like it just is, unfortunately. Like we see it all the time. We can see that, and we can both say that because we work in this space. That's not to say, for some women that look after themselves impeccably in perimenopause, again, sometimes genetics, you just get dealt a shit show. And again, this is where HRT will come in. Like you might have done so much amazing stuff in peri and be expecting menopause to actually not be that bumpy of a ride. And then unfortunately, your hormone gods intervene and go, we're going to fuck with you. In which case, we have HRT.
Exactly.
So
well, let's move on to some of these questions, unless I know we kind of brushed over testosterone, DHEA.
Yes,
I don't know if you want to speak to those, or shall we kind of bring them into these questions?
We can just, hit me with a question about them.
Well, I think realistically, maybe we can kind of put that into this first question, which you realistically in a way just spoke to, as far as if clients are coming to you and they're saying, I'm going through XYZ, do I have to go on HRT? Like, is it like essential? Which I think you've just spoken well to, but maybe just also speak to like how maybe testosterone and DHEA may fit into that as well.
So again, these are not as commonly prescribed, but it's definitely something we see. DHEA, not super common. Like we will see that prescribed sometimes if there's some sort of adrenal stuff going on for someone or some sort of autoimmune thing, but I don't commonly see that prescribed. In fairness, it was getting prescribed a lot for women in perimenopause 10 years ago, but we don't see it as commonly prescribed now, and quite commonly a lot by integrative GPs. And again, quite commonly very wildly, in my opinion. Like I was just like, what? And same with testosterone. So TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy, very similar to HRT. You can get I'm not sure what is preferably prescribed, but I do know it comes as a body identical in Australia that can be prescribed, and I'm hoping that is what gets prescribed. Again, it's not something we see a lot of. I caution over testosterone replacement therapy for women. That is my personal opinion. That is my anecdotal opinion from what I've seen when it's prescribed, as someone who has spent over 10 years working in this space and seeing its effects, but just also from a understanding the hormone cascade point of view. Testosterone, when it's prescribed, it does influence the other hormones, and not necessarily in a beneficial way. Women are meant to be estrogenic and androgenic. So that's our, obviously our testosterone and DHEA space. But what I see with testosterone therapy is it not work very well for women, in the sense that unless it's really needed and the testosterone's really low. And the reasons it would be prescribed usually is for libido, or if women are in the training space and wanting to, build muscle, and which is crazy. But I definitely don't see it do well for women personally. I see it, if anything, it sounds a bit wild, but it can cause aggression issues. I'm saying that laughing because I'm like, it's the male hormone. Like,
yeah, I know, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So yes, if you TRT for libido, but I think if you're worried about libido or lower testosterone levels, and these will decline in perimenopause as well, I think leaning into the natural space here is the better alternative. I think testosterone replacement therapy in women, I think it's dangerous. We're not meant to have androgens as our dominant hormone until postmenopause. They become that way a little bit, but they're still not in the levels that are being prescribed in TRT therapies. And that's just my personal opinion, just from what I see. How do you think about it?
I've never really seen any clients do particularly well with it. It's rarer I've seen it prescribed, but I can only think of like maybe one or two maximum over the years, and there's never been any like super positive experience from it. And I totally agree, to be honest. Like, I think it's such a strong, and unfortunately, going down that way is like a strong way of potentially creating that androgen dominance that is then going to have such a potential impact on the hormones adversely. It's like, why not do that in a more natural way, so it's more subtle, and that like just naturally just giving those androgens a really gentle little shove through the mechanisms that we have. I've seen that work really, really well, particularly with things like energy and libido. But I can't even imagine, like, I can think of a lot of clients with that aspect that we've done that in conjunction with support of other areas of the hormone cascade, not just that on its own. But I can't even imagine, like, with those clients going in with like body identical testosterone, sort of, again, you laugh, but like the state that it could push them into.
And it does. It is the state that it pushes them into. I'm laughing because the clients that
I'd love to try it myself.
Well, I've had a few clients that just want to try it and see what happens.
I've even got a quarter bottle, I can't say brands, a quarter bottle of a certain product we use in clinic here that's a more androgen specific supplement. And I've been thinking about trying it just to see what happens, but I'm too scared. And I started giving some to Damien to see how he went, and like, he seems okay so far. But
it's okay so far. But his body's designed to
he's designed for it, but he's very sensitive to stuff like that, because I've tried it before, and like he'll get, like, even from natural stuff, the aggression will like just very, very quickly dial up. Whereas, so I was like, let's see if he gets anything like that. But obviously I'm completely different. But I was like, ooh, I wonder if I'll just start like PRing at the gym.
The thing about testosterone is, for men and women, is its metabolites and various metabolism pathways are so complex. And we'll talk about this with estrogen as well, but how you metabolize testosterone really matters. So if you're going to take TRT as a therapy, sure, you might hit your PRs at the gym, but you might also end up with back acne or,
well, hello, all the
and
gym
aggression
bros.
aggression issues.
Yeah, there's a reason why gym bros that are like on the TRT walking around with back knee. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And you might all of a sudden have a libido that's out of control, but there's again, like, it's, again, to be fair, I feel like libido for women, and this is a whole other podcast, I think we touched on this with Chantel, but libido for women is so much more complicated than testosterone.
Absolutely.
And that's what needs the acknowledgement as well, because I think a lot of women who are interested in TRT are usually doing it for either weight concerns or libido concerns. And weight is so much more complicated than just raising your androgen so your estrogen doesn't misbehave, and libido is so much more complicated than just raising your testosterone. So
for
so
sure.
I think it probably just, if you are in the TRT space or you're interested in it, or it's been offered to you by a specialist or something like that, I really put a caution on it, purely because I understand its metabolite pathways. And obviously the things I'm talking about, like skin and stuff, they're just the symptoms, but how it goes in and the potential inflammatory aspects of higher testosterone in women needs to be considered.
Yep, love it. All right, second question. How can I get HRT prescribed? Who should be prescribing it? You kind of talked about this already. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, or should we move on to the next question?
I'll just say quickly, at the moment, most places can prescribe HRT. So if you go to your doctor and they are willing to prescribe it, you can get it off them. But I just put a caution on that. I think get a referral to an endocrinologist, or at least if you understand your cycle, maybe use some of the guidelines that we've chatted about so you can have an informed conversation with your GP about where you're at and what you want to try. The other option is, if you want to work with GPs and you don't want a referral to an endocrinologist or a gynecologist, there are big centres set up in Australia that are more informed GPs, in the sense like the Australian Menopause Centre and all of these. And these are collections of GPs where you can book an online consultation with them, have a chat where you're at, and then they can prescribe it. They can prescribe it that way. There's like Australian Menopause Centre. Like, if you just there's a couple of with very similar names, and they're all Australia-wide, and then you just get it compounded in your local pharmacy. So there's that option as well. So that's more of a mainstream route without having to have a specialist referral. I'm still going to say I see some of the same problems come out of some of these places where, someone who will be 46, they'll have a conversation with these people and they'll end up with, a bit of a haze over, I've been given estrogen and progesterone, but they told me to just try whatever I feel like. That's not an appropriate prescription.
Jesus.
So just again, if you're not confident with the person prescribing, if you come out of it feeling more confused than when you went in, and you come out of it feeling like you don't have a game plan or a follow-up monitoring process, maybe find a different practitioner before you start it. That would be my advice.
Imagine us giving supplements to a client, just saying,
take it if you want to, see
if
happens.
you want to, maybe take this one. Yeah, whatever, just whenever you want. See what happens.
What do you feel?
What are you feeling?
And this I have seen happen. So I've seen this happen quite a few times. So that's why I wanted to just flag it. You really need a practitioner prescribing it that is going to monitor it and understands. And you walk out of it feeling really fucking clear about where you're at, what you're getting prescribed, and how it's going to help you, but also what it's going to look like if it doesn't.
And I think you've really highlighted that you want to go in and have a conversation with someone who's asking you questions about where you're at in not only your cycle life, but more detailed questions about your health history with your cycle, and wanting to do testing, wanting to know where you're at.
100%.
Without question, I think that's what you're looking for, because if you're not getting that and you're just getting a quick, someone write something on a script and push you out the door, the red flag should be up.
100%.
Okay, 100%. So you've done such a good job with everything. I think you've pretty much answered these questions, but does HRT suppress my normal hormone cycle the way a synthetic HRT does?
In short, no. At the moment, our understanding is, and I want to just, this is why I pop this, because I get this question a lot, but I also, I think a lot about this question.
Of course you do.
Of course I do, because this is my brain does.
I think about muffins. You think about this.
You think about muffins rising in an oven. I think about HRT and feedback loops. So This one's probably more for the practitioner brains out there, and I just want to put this out there as a question and a watch this space, because I am a big believer that our body is very fucking smart. And so at the moment, the general understanding is that body identical just supports. Okay, it goes in and all of that. But I love the way I always drop these big buts in. But I want to pose the question, because we only are in the infancy of this space in terms of HRT and our understanding of it. I want to pose the question that our body responds at a receptor level to anything. So does HRT change our body's own endogenous production of estrogen or progesterone because all of a sudden there's more coming in from somewhere else? I don't know the answer to that question. At the moment, I don't know if anyone's talking about it. I think it needs to be a conversation, personally, because I like my biochemical brain would
I agree with
say
you.
yes.
Well, think about it from a thyroid point of view, like the way the thyroid responds to taking thyroid hormones.
Yeah.
TSH levels. I don't know. Like I'm with you. I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And I also think that, let's just say you're in early menopause and you're going through their transitions, and all of a sudden you just get put on estrogen, which helps level things out a little bit. And then you're putting progesterone over the top. Is there some mechanism there where it actually tells your ovaries to stop ovulating? Like, I don't know. They're saying no at the moment. And again, maybe I haven't listened to every podcast in this space. So if someone has, and there is more information on this, fucking flick it through to me. I'm keen to know if there is conversations happening in this space at this more in-depth level. And if people because this requires testing, right, too. Like, we're not at that stage where we've tested and we've done this massive double-blind fucking clinical placebo, whatever trial on 10,000 women on HRT and looked at their ovaries to make sure, we haven't done all of that yet. So while we have this space to utilize, we are still in the infancy of it. And I think we are going to learn a lot more about it. So I think, why it doesn't suppress it in the way that the oral contraceptive pill does or a progesterone only pill does, like, it's not acting on that level where it just shuts everything down and stops you ovulating. We have feedback loops in the body, and we have receptor levels and receptor sensitivity to things in the body. And so it makes sense to me that this is a question that needs to be probably explored
agreed.
more.
I really agree. Well, this is a biggie. Is it safe if you have a breast cancer risk?
Okay, so I think this one needs to be opened up for discussion. So I'm going to probably say this is more of a watch this space as well. At the moment, my general understanding, and I have heard some people say the opposite to this, like, again, just listening to, big podcasts in this space and people talking about it who I really trust and respect in this space. At the moment, the general consensus is still no. Okay. So generally they're saying that even with HRT, if you have a breast cancer risk, that it is not technically something they would willingly prescribe, which raises a few questions for me about HRT. Like, we've all of a sudden been given it as a green light, why? But I think too that's because we're still trying to understand it, and I can talk about this till the cows come home, because I think this really comes down to the complexity of breast cancer. Breast cancer risk, is your breast cancer hormone receptor sensitive cancer? So I think there's a lot that we need to understand in this space. However, I have seen women with breast cancer risk still go on to be prescribed HRT. So I think this is a bit of a watch this space. It is a question I get asked a lot. Personally, with breast cancer in my family, I would still err on the side of caution of HRT. Unless I was going through menopause and I was fucking insanely just affected by it, I would, with my personal risk and just the way my estrogen behaves, and I want to talk about this in the terms of understanding estrogen, how it behaves, I would not do HRT personally. Like, that is just my stance on it, because I still think, again, we're in the infancy of this space and we just don't know enough about it yet. But we do know that estrogen and how it metabolizes is really important. So again, that's where I think the HRT space needs to have more research and information and all of that done, because breast cancer is really complicated. But I think at this stage, they're still leaning towards the side of no, but I'm seeing it prescribed with people, and it does make me raise my eyebrows, because I'm like, well, that's fine, but do you know how your estrogen detoxes? And that's where I think we need to, and this is what I would love to see in the integrative space, if you are getting prescribed HRT and there is breast cancer risk, and this, I may change my opinion on this in 2 years and it may be completely fine as we know more and understand more. But at the moment, I think with anything like this, you want to understand what your estrogen does, whether you have a breast cancer risk or not. I think it's really important, because breast cancer now we're seeing not be so determined on family history and not be determined on the BRCA1 gene. Yes, they play parts of it 100%, but we're seeing women get diagnosed in their 40s and 30s that don't have a family risk and don't carry the BRCA1 or 2 genes. So there's so much more to breast cancer that we understand is going on and we know, but I think if you have a family history of it and you're looking at HRT, I would put a caution on it at the moment, but I would also really think if you are on HRT, I would be doing a Dutch test. I'd be doing a Dutch test every 6 months, and I would be understanding and making sure that I'm not making a lot of those 4-hydroxy and 16-hydroxy metabolites in my detoxification of that HRT, because I think that really matters. Yeah. And that's not a space that's really happening yet, but I would love to see it happen.
Oh, yeah. No, I wildly agree. I do. And even genetics as well, like
100%.
maybe, not maybe, like alongside that, like running genetic testing for estrogen and like just hormones in general, but particularly with respect to estrogen and estrogen detox.
Yeah, there's so many genes involved in estrogen or estrogen detoxification. You know, like I think, you know, and that's what I mean. Like these are the things that if we're going to start prescribing HRT to women with cancer risk, there needs to be a bigger understanding. So, you know, at the moment for me, I don't know about you, but for me personally, it would be a no. Until I know more, if I needed to consider it, but you know, my estrogen's a bitch anyway, so I just try and keep her under control.
Exactly. No, I definitely 110% agree for sure. And that's the beauty of what we have access to, but it would just be so fantastic to see these specialists and integrative GPs like being the people that had so much more, hopefully, like self-education and experience, and be like at a point where like if someone comes in and they have these potential risks, they're like, we're not even going to look at you until we not only know your full case history, but we're going to run these functional tests and get a full idea of where we're at before we even consider this. Exactly.
And have the conversations with them about all the things we just said.
Exactly. All right, last question. I'm on HRT. Well, I'm not, but let's imagine I am. I'm on HRT. What do I need to know?
Cool.
Side effects, detox. You know, that's another massive big question. What do I need to know, Rissy?
I honestly think, like, again, we probably covered a lot.
Pretty much go back to the start of the podcast, press play.
Exactly. I think just know, like everything, there's no one size fits all. I think HRT, like there's also dosing of it as well. Like quite commonly the progesterone starts off at, I think, at 100 milligrams or micrograms. I can't remember. And it goes up to 200. And then estrogen's a little bit different as well. Like there's a bit of a grading to it. So understanding what works for you is why I think having a specialist who understands the space is really important, because I think low and slow should be the approach.
Absolutely.
With everything. But I also think from a side effect point of view, like too much of anything, but most commonly estrogen, is going to come with side effects. So, you know, so the side effects can be mood changes, it can be breast changes, it can be menstrual changes, it can be if you're getting a cycle and you're on estrogen, it can be mood cycle, like so much stuff. So
sleep.
I think sleep, yes, thank you. Sleep, like just really know what your normal, even though I know it's hard to say what your normal was before, because if you're in the throes of menopause, you're like, nothing's fucking normal. But if something doesn't feel right, please go back to your prescribing practitioner, because what I've seen sometimes is, we'll just increase your estrogen dose or just give it 3 to 6 months. Like 3 to 6 months after 1 to 2 months on HRT, we would be expecting to see an improvement, not improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's what you need. So in terms of side effects, like you need someone prescribing that, exactly all the things Jess said earlier, is testing regularly, going back, you're having those conversations. HRT, I've already touched on detoxification, but I think it's really important. I think understanding, even if you have no breast cancer risk, you have no estrogen issues, but you're going to be taking HRT till the time you're 60, which some women are prescribed that, most of the time our estrogen has dropped off in our 50s, early 50s. Like, I think understanding how you're detoxifying it is important. And I think looking out for some of those signs, I think I'm not pushing the Dutch test, but that is probably the best test to understand your estrogen detoxification. So if you're on HRT and you really want to cross your T's and dot your I's, do a Dutch test every 12 months and just make sure that estrogen is detoxing effectively, because you won't see that in bloods. And I think with HRT, like you and I've already said it many times, but testing its efficacy, like you can see that in serum in regular bloods. Like you can have a look at progesterone, at day 21. You can have a look at day 5 or even day 21. Like if they're on HRT, I imagine it's going to sit pretty even, but it will fluctuate if the woman's still cycling. So I think testing its efficacy, like some women will go on estrogen and they'll still feel really shit, but it might be because they haven't got they don't have enough yet. So testing and understanding if you need to increase or decrease your dose, it's all of that is really important. So I think that's they're the things I would really highlight with HRT if you're on it.
That's pretty bloody amazing. I think you've wrapped that up in a really lovely bow. I think there's going to be so many listeners that will get so much from this. I think you've explained things really well, like as far as hopefully people understanding first and foremost, like the pattern of this perimenopause, menopause space, and like what they're looking for through these different stages. But yeah, you've really highlighted well, like, in a very non-biased way, like in a really practical way, because like it's really obvious, like you're so passionate about hormones, but also like you're not coming at this with like this bias, like no, HRT is bad lens. Like you're definitely looking at it from both sides of the fence and just really practical. And I think people will really value that, because there's so I just feel like there's a lot out there that is like, probably also screaming from the like, this is like the answer to everything, and brushing stuff under the carpet, and then the other that is like, no, this is the devil. So yeah, it's really helpful to have it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think it's important too. Like I want to do a podcast maybe down the track, but I want to do a podcast on the GPL1s as well. Like because I think that's really important. Like,
no, I think we should do that sooner rather than later. I've got so many clients.
Yeah, awesome, because I'm the same. Yeah,
GPL, it's insane.
Like, same thing. It's just another space that has exploded. But what are the pros and cons, and what do you need to know?
I can't believe how many like clients at the moment, like new clients we have on our intake form a section for medications, and it's just been insane in this last 6 months. Like how many people are on GPL1s? It's like 10 years ago, it's where the cholesterol BP medication used to be listed, and now it's just GPL1s. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, GPL1s and HRT. I think the biggest thing with anything, like, and it's the same with any depressants, like we have this pharmaceutical world, and this is why I'm not biased either way. Like I love the preventative health space. I know you love the preventative health space, but I really want an integrative space for my clients, and I want an integrative space for everyone in the wellness sphere trying to look after themselves, because we can't do it all in the natural health space and they can't do it all in the mainstream pharmaceutical spape. But an integration of the two, where the patient gets quality of life, is the best outcome for them. That's what we need, and that's what we need to think about HRT. We'll talk about this with GPL1s. We'll talk about this like even with antidepressants. Like these are a tool. And if the tool is necessary, the tool can be fucking amazing when combined with all the other dietary and lifestyle stuff. And that's, that's HRT. Yeah, it's just 100% another great tool that we have. And when prescribed appropriately for the appropriate reasons, can and will be game changers for a really high percentage of the population. So
for sure. No, I absolutely love it. This is fantastic. Listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode and you have found it super valuable, please share it. Like we always ask you to do so, but this is one of those episodes that like the more this gets out there, the more it's going to help other women. So yeah, please share it on your socials. And if you have enjoyed the episode, we'd love you even just to take a second just to pause and go and leave us a review as well, because that helps other people find us. But yeah, it's just been a real great episode. I've loved it. I've got to sit back and
let me
you
go.
keep referring to yourself as ranting, but this is not Rissy ranting. This is Carissa sharing her passion, and it just oozes out of you. And there's nothing more exciting than watching or listening to people who are so passionate. It's just like a buzzy excitement that comes through.
Yeah, I know. And I get like this in my consults with my clients when I'm talking about it. And that's why I'm like, we need to do this as a podcast, because I'm literally having this, like, not the same conversation, but similar, depending on where people are, with so many people, but in a closed room. And everyone's like, you're so passionate about this. I'm like, because I fucking love it.
You know what you've got now is that when you get hit up with all these questions, once this goes live, you can just flick them a link. Flick them a link. Here you go. Listen to this. Here's
an hour of everything I think and what you need to know. Come back to me if you have questions afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
No, thanks so much. We have run out of time for today, guys, so we're not going to share any recommendations, but I'm sure your brains are full of information anyway. So we're going to love and leave you and catch you next time. So thanks for listening and bye.
Bye.